Bore da, croeso I chi gyd sy'n ymuno. Yn enw I yw Aled Eirig, dwi'n aelod o'r Academi Heddwch, a dwi'n falch iawn I gael y fraint o gydeirio y sesiwn yma. Mae'r sesiwn yn mynd I bara rhwng rhyw cwarter I 12 a hanner awr I 12, a falle a bydd wedyn amser ymginio cyn y sesiwn nesaf wedyn am cwarter wedi 1. Y sesiwn hwnnw yw Heddwch Iechyd a Iaith gyda Ngharad Higgins a Rabi Wazim Aslam. Nawr, cyn I ni ddechrau, dwi jyst eisiau gofyn I chi, os ych chi eisiau gael gafel y cyfieithydd a clywed y cyfieithad, mae yna lun bach o'r byd ar waelod o'ch sgrin. Os ych chi'n mynd I hwnna, if you want interpretation, go to the globe sign at the bottom of the screen and hit that for interpretation, and Linwen will be taking care of you, as it were. Mae'n bleser mawr dy fi gydeirio'r sesiwn yma. Mae'n sesiwn sy'n agos at yng nghalon ni yn ymwneud gyda beth sy'n digwydd I beth sy'n cael ei alw yn iechyd, heddwch a bobl yr ymylon. Dwi'n yn siŵr os mae dyna'r term cywir I ddefnyddio, ond yn sicr llawer o'r amser bydd yn cymryd bydd fi drafod ffwydried yn benodol. A fel cyn-gydeirydd Cyngor Ffwydriad Cymru, dwi'n freintiedig iawn o allu bod wedi cymryd rhywfaint o ran yn ymwneud gyda y cwestiwn ffwydriad yng Nghymru. Y siaradwyr sydd gyda ni yw Josie Nicholas, Dr Asha Kanom a Tanuja Hetirachi. Ni hefyd yn mynd I gael cyflwyniad gan Dewi Alter o Brifysgol Abertawe. Mae wedi bod yn astudio hunangofiant Charles Edwards, Puritannydd a llenor ar y ganrif 15 a'r destun I hunangofiant sef An Afflicted Man's Testimony Concerning His Troubles. A beth sy'n ddiddorol am hwnna, a mae hwn yn rhywbeth gwbl wahanol, wrth gwrs I fyddwn ni'n trafod gyda bobl eraill yn y sesiwn yma, bydd edrych ar natur Charles Edwards fel unigolyn I unigeddau a'r modd nath drio rhoi Cymru mewn cyd-destun beibledd o ran I hanesyddiaethau. Felly mae hwnna yn ddo hunan ddiddorol. Felly, nawn ni orffen gyda Dewi, ond yn gyntaf, nicen ni ddechrau gyda Josie Nicholas a Ashra a Tanuja. Mae Josie yn swyddog ymchwil, uwch swyddog ymchwil gyda Iechyd Cyhoeddus Cymru, a mae hi wedi bod yn cynnal prosiect o'r enw Hyr, sef edrych ar brofiadau iechyd bobl sydd wedi bod yn geiswyr lloches ac yn ffwydriad, a mae hi hefyd yn ymchwilydd anrhydedd gyda Phrifysgol Abertawe. Mae Dr Asha Kanom yn swyddog, yn uwch swyddog ymchwil yn y Brifysgol Abertawe hefyd, ac wedi gweithio ar yr un prosiect, a mae Tanuja Hetirachi yn ymchwilydd sydd wedi bod yn gweithio ar y cyd gyda ffwydriad a geiswyr lloches wrth edrych ar eu profiadau penodol nhw. Felly, y fformat fydd bod y cyflwyniad yn nwylo Josie, Ashra a Tanuja am 17 munud, mae'n gweud fan hyn. 17 munud, wedyn gawn ni dewi, a wedyn ni nawr ni agor y peth i gwestiynau. OK, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Aled. I think Nell is going to share our slides on my behalf, so thank you very much if we can start sharing those. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. Today I will be presenting on the topic of health, peace and the marginalised, as Aled said, specifically the peer researcher methodology used in the Here 1 and Here 2 research studies. And as a reminder, the acronym standing for Health Experiences of Asylum Seekers and Refugees in Wales. So with me today, I have my colleague Ashra from Swansea University, and we will also be hearing from Tanuja, who we are very lucky to have as one of our peer researchers. So next slide, please. So to give you some background to what we are presenting on today, I'm going to give a brief overview of sanctuary in Wales. So as I'm sure you all are aware, international conflict and human rights abuse has contributed to a rise in people seeking sanctuary across Europe. And Wales has had a long history of welcoming those who are fleeing war and or persecution. Asylum seekers have been dispersed here from other parts of the UK since 2001. And throughout the presentation, we refer to those who are refugees and asylum seekers as sanctuary seekers. So it's estimated that there are up to 10,000 sanctuary seekers in Wales. And for those seeking sanctuary here, there is a concern that this population have unmet health needs and can have difficulties in accessing services. So I'm now going to hand over to Ashra, as she was pivotal in leading the Here 1 study. So can we have the next slide, please?
Thank you. So apologies for my voice, I'm just still recovering from COVID. So as Josie was saying, Wales is working towards becoming the world's first nation of sanctuary, building on the UK-wide City of Sanctuary movement. And in 2017, the National Assembly for Wales Equality, Local Government and Communities Committee Inquiry produced a report, I Used to Be Someone, Refugees and Asylum Seekers in Wales. And the inquiry found that sanctuary seekers' experience of service provision across Wales generally lacked consistency. And also there was little research to understand the effect these health experiences were having on the health and well-being of sanctuary seekers in Wales. And there was a lot of anecdotal evidence, but not an evidence base to build on. So in January 2018, Public Health Wales commissioned Swansea University to do a Wales-wide research project where we looked at the health and well-being of asylum seekers and refugees across Wales. We did a literature mapping exercise, we did focus groups, interviews, questionnaires, and we also had the opportunity to capture views from health providers during that research. And we looked at, in terms of our analysis, we looked at what helped or hindered the healthcare access for sanctuary seekers. And we hope that the research would inform policy and practice with a view to realising Wales's ambition to become a nation of sanctuary, supporting universal health coverage in line with the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. Our research is available online for anyone who is interested. Slide 4, please. Thank you. So from the outset, we worked closely with third sector partners, Public Health Wales, and we knew that accessing the community would be very difficult and challenging. And so what we did from the outset was we included 8 volunteer peer researchers who themselves were sanctuary seekers to take the role of peer researcher to assist us with the data collection, and particularly the survey. We trained the volunteers for this role. However, due to funding restrictions, we were not able to pay honorarium for their time, and also there were legal requirements around immigration status. So people who are asylum seekers were not allowed to have any form of earning. But we did offer them a gift at the end of the study, and certificates, and also had a formal presentation in Cardiff, where Frank Atherton, the Chief Medical Officer, awarded the peer researchers their plaques for their recognising their contribution. In here too, which Josie will talk about a bit more in detail, we have costed in for their time. So in the Here One study, we tried to make sure that we had a mix of female and male peer researchers. The ages ranged from 20 to 50. They spoke about, within our research team, plus with the peer researchers, we covered about 9 languages altogether. And the benefits of including the peer researchers was that we hope to build capacity within the community as a resource, so that other projects and researchers can tap into that resource in future. We also increased awareness about research within the community and broke down barriers, so that people understand that when they're taking part in research and when they're helping us collect data, there are lots of safeguards put in place so that people are not harmed from taking part. And we also felt that we hoped that were able to empower people to develop in themselves, and also to support their community in future. Next slide, please. So as I said earlier, the third sector were involved, and they were very involved from the outset. So Displaced People in Action helped us in shaping the study proposal and the research questions. The other partners were the British Red Cross, the Welsh Refugee Council, and the Ethnic Youth Support Team. Our study management team included 2 lay members who were both sanctuary seekers, the funders, Public Health Wales, and NHS representatives. We conducted the research together. We've been presenting the findings from the research together, involving the peer researchers when we can in disseminating the results. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Ashra. So we didn't want to talk about our peer researcher methodology today without asking one of our peer researchers to share their experience with you. Tanuja, who we are very lucky to have as a peer researcher in both the Here One and Here Two studies, has very kindly recorded a video for us to share with you. We weren't sure that she was going to be able to join us in person, but I'm really pleased that she has been able to. We will go ahead with playing the video, but I'm sure she will be happy to answer any questions afterwards. So can we have the video now, please?
Hi, I'm Tanuja Hettiarati from Swansea. I came to Swansea back in 2016, and I was involved in a few third sector organisations who are supporting asylum seekers and refugees in Swansea and whole Wales. I was volunteering with DPIA in their Welsh Refugee and Asylum Seekers Forum before I get an invitation to become a peer researcher. I really like the concept of the Here One study, and I thought it's important to highlight some of the issues faced by sanctuary seekers. I hear their experiences daily via my volunteering, so I thought this is a really good way to communicate these issues to those who are making decisions. I also knew that they wouldn't share their stories with anyone else except those who they trust the most. So it was a good opportunity for me to become a voice for voiceless people. I really enjoyed the process of Here One study as well as Here Two now. I have had really good trainings. I have met some amazing people. It was a great addition for my CV, as well. I was a volunteer back in when I was involved in Year 1 study, but currently I'm on a secondment to Welsh Government on Refugee Restart Integration Project as a employee engagement officer. Therefore, it's really good opportunity for me to understand what we can do together to eliminate some of the issues faced by sanctuary seekers in Wales. Wales is on a journey to become a nation of sanctuary, and I think these studies will help that journey. Thank you.
So a big thank you to Tanuja for providing that recording for us. Can I have the next slide, please? So that brings us nicely on to talking about the follow-up Year study, Year 2. Many of the findings from Year 1 were taken to health boards and the Welsh Government, but one of the key findings was the need to improve interpretation within healthcare provision for asylum seekers and refugees in Wales. And so our research question for Year 2 asks how well the interpretation needs of asylum seekers and refugees are met. Due to the success in the initial study, the peer researcher methodology is also being used in Year 2. Peer researchers are administering a survey, and a smaller group will also be conducting interviews with members of the sanctuary seeking community in Wales. This time we have a larger group of peer researchers. We have 13 people altogether, and similarly to Year 1, we have a mix of male and female, differing ages, different languages spoken, and also where they are located in different areas of Wales. We are using a slightly different module this time. Firstly, we have used quite an informal application process for the peer researcher role, as we anticipated quite a lot of interest, and we also wanted to ensure that we had peer researchers across Wales. The restrictions that we have seen due to the coronavirus pandemic have forced us into adjusting our way of working and being flexible in our approach. During our planning stages, we realised that the main impact of this to the peer researchers was that the data collection would need to be conducted remotely. This was because community groups such as drop-in centres were not running, and Welsh Government guidance at the time was not to meet face-to-face. Thankfully, things are changing, but having that flexibility has been and continues to be key. And as Ashwin mentioned earlier, unlike in Year 1, this is not a voluntary role. Due to the funding we've received for this study, the group are being reimbursed for their time and contributions. However, this does have to be within the regulations that exist for reimbursing asylum seekers and refugees. Next slide, please. So in regards to training and support, it has been and continues to be vital that the core study team provides this to the group of peer researchers. We are always aware of not wanting to cause any additional stress and for this to be a positive experience for the group. Unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, our training session did have to be delivered remotely over Zoom. These were offered as evening sessions, as many of the group are busy volunteering in other roles or working during the daytime. The training agenda covered topics such as confidentiality, collecting question responses without causing harm, and data protection. But despite not being able to meet face-to-face, the sessions were shorter, but they were successful, and we had positive feedback from the peer researchers themselves. We have been working very closely with Displaced People in Action, a third sector organisation, and through our work with them, we purchased a safeguarding e-learning module from Virtual College, which we have asked the peer researchers to complete. It is CPD certified, and each person receives a certificate on completion of the course, which of course it can be added to their CV and used in the future. We have many ways of providing support. I've set up a WhatsApp group, which is very active and is a very effective way of communicating with the peer researchers. The group are also able to contact myself or other members of the study team through WhatsApp, through email or phone, whatever they prefer. We also have now fortnightly drop-in sessions to ask any questions or queries or to raise any concerns that the group have, and these will run until the end of the data collection period. So despite never having met face-to-face, there is very good rapport between the study team and the group, as well as between the peer researchers themselves. And we're hoping before the end of September, when the study ends, we will have an opportunity to all get together. Next slide, please. So to finish, I wanted to summarise some of the key benefits of the peer researcher methodology. Firstly, the peer researchers are able to harness their existing links with the sanctuary seeking community to gather data, which would be very challenging otherwise. As Tanuja said in her recording, trust is a very important element here. Secondly, the insight the group has been a great help to the study team. The peer researchers have raised ideas and suggestions that the core team may not have considered otherwise. And on occasion, they have challenged some decisions based on how they may be received by the sanctuary seeking community. A further benefit is that providing opportunities such as those of being a peer researcher can harness the skills of people seeking sanctuary and can also support access to the labour market for those who are granted leave to remain. Some of the Year 1 peer researchers, such as Tanuja, were able to use their experience to later secure employment or training opportunities. And I will let Ashra speak to the pictures and awards, as unfortunately I can't take any credit for these myself.
Thank you, Josie. Just to go through the awards, so we did actually in 2019 win the Health and Care Research Wales Public Engagement Award, and the peer researchers were invited to the conference, and then we were all presented with the award. We also won the Swansea University Engagement Award, and on the last picture you can see Professor Ian Russell, who provided pro bono support to the study as a statistician, and Dr. Jill Richardson from, you've probably seen her over coronavirus presentations on television. So they both presented at the Royal College of GP conference in 2019, and we won third prize, which was actually a great success for us because the first prize was a randomized controlled trial. Second prize was an international study. So we were third. So we were very pleased with that award as well. And just want to say thank you to all the peer researchers, the third sector organisations, all the volunteers who've supported us through Year 1 and also now supporting us in Year 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashra, absolutely. And the final slide, please. So we hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and if you would like any more information on either of the Here studies, then please do get in touch with either myself or Ashra, and our email addresses are on the slide. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Josie. Diddorol iawn. Alla i ofyn, ydy'r cyflwyniad na ar gael i'r bobl sy'n edrych? Ydy e ar-lein rhywle?
I don't know the answer to that myself, Aled. I might look to Nell for that.
Yeah, but I presume there wouldn't be a problem with it?
No, I'm happy to share it from our side, yeah.
We'd be happy to add it to our website afterwards if you'd like that, Josie.
That would be great, thank you.
Oh, brilliant, thank you so much.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diddorol ti hwnt. Cyn i ni gael cwestiynau, mi awn ni ar ail gyflwyniad gan Dewi Olta. Dwi'n edrych mlaen i hwn yn fawr iawn. Mae'n gwbl wahanol i'r cyflwyniad cyntaf ni wedi gael, ond ynglyn â Charles Edwards a'i hunangofiant a'i astudiaeth gwahanol falle. Dewi, drosodd i ti.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. A diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am y cyfle i gael rannu fy ymchwil gyda chi heddiw. Fy mwriad i yn y papur hwn yw i drafod an afflicted man's testimony gan Charles Edwards gan fanylu ar ei iechyd meddwl a'i heddwch. Prin iawn yw'r awduron Cymraeg o'r ail ganrif ar 15 sydd wedi derbyn cymaint o sylw a Charles Edwards. Mae'r rhan fwyaf o'r gwaith wedi wneud gan Derek Llwyd Morgan. Presbyteriad oedd Edwards ac mae'n cael ei adnabod fwyaf fel awdur y ffydd ddiffiant. Naratif am hanes y ffydd yn y byd cyn canolbwyntio ar Gymru ac yna grym y ffydd wrth iddo draws newid enaid yr unigolyn. Roedd Edwards yn awdur amlieithog ac ysgrifennodd hunangofiant llai adnabyddus, sef an afflicted man's testimony concerning his troubles, a wnaeth pwy tua diwedd ei fywyd yn 1691. A dyma yw testun y drafodaeth heddi. A be dwi'n gobeithio cynnig yw golwg i ni ar effeithiau diffyg heddwch ar iechyd meddwl yn y gorffennol. Fy mwriad yw dadlau fod yna baralelau rhwng ei brofiad ef fel alltud mewnol, term Christopher Daddario, ac unigedd fel ei hamlinellwyd gan Anderson, Alberti a Snell, ysgolheigion sy'n canolbwyntio arni. Caiff alltudiaeth yma ei ddeall fel profiad unig, sydd yn cael ei astudio wrth archwilio hunangofiant Edwards. Gan Edwards yn y testimony, cawn naratif am unigolyn bregus ac am unigrwydd a orfodwyd arno. Mae'r testimony yn darlunio bywyd a dreulwyd ar ei ben ei hun, ac o ganlyniad byddaf fi'n dadlau fod yna berthynas rhynggysylltiedig rhwng bod ar eich pen eich hun, sef aloneness, ac unigedd, sef loneliness. Bydd y papur hwn hefyd yn gobeithio yn annog ysgolheigion Cymreig a Chymraeg i ymwneud ag iechyd meddwl yn eu pwnc nhw, ac i beidio ag ystyried awduron fel gwrthrychau neu oddrychau, ond fel pobl o gig a gwaed gan annog ysgolheictod sydd yn sympathetig ac yn empathetig. Caiff unigedd heddiw ei ddeall fel ymdeimlad goddrychol o ddioddefaint sydd yn deillio o wahanu ac ynysiaeth o ddiwrth eraill. Mae yna berthynas gref rhwng unigedd sef loneliness ac aloneness sef bod ar eich pen eich hun. Dyma ddiffiniad poblogaidd gan Anderson o unigedd. Dywed ei fod an enduring condition of emotional distress that arises when a person feels estranged from, misunderstood or rejected by others, and or lacks appropriate social partners for desired activities, particularly activities that provide a sense of social integration. Caiff y diffiniad hwn ei ddilyn gan Alberti, a ddywed loneliness is a conscious and cognitive feeling of estrangement or social separation, an emotional lack that concerns a person's place in the world. Ac felly nid mater o wybod eich bod yn unig yn y termau hynny sydd yn gwneud rhywun yn unig, yn hytrach yr ymwybyddiaeth eich bod chi wedi'ch gwahanu o'r byd. Fel dywed Snell, loneliness may be defined as a suffering self-recognition of separateness. Yr hyn sydd yn gyffredin i'r diffiniadau hyn yw bod unigedd yn brofiad goddrychol sydd wedi ei seilio ar ddieithrwch a diffyg integreiddiad cymdeithasol. Ymhlith achosion unigedd y mae chwyldroadau, chwalfa deuluol, marwolaeth neu symud, ac mae'r catalyst hyn i'w gweld y mywyd Charles Edwards fel y gwelwn. Mae'r diffiniadau hyn a'r achosion yn berthnasol wrth ystyried Charles Edwards fel person alltud. Roedd alltudion wedi ei gwahanu, ei gwahardd neu ei gwrthod gan eu cymdeithasau. Cawsant ei gwahanu oddi wrth yn achos y cyfnod hwn eu cymunedau crefyddol a'i teuluoedd ac arweiniodd hyn yn fy marn i yn ddigon naturiol at brofiadau negyddol yn emosiynol, yn gymdeithasol ac yn ysbrydol a gallwn ni ddeall hyn fel unigedd. Roedd alltudion wedi eu hynysu ac ar eu pen eu hun, ac fel y gwelwn roedd Charles Edwards yn unig. Nad oedd Edwards wedi gadael Prydain, mae'n briodol ei ddeall fel alltud, ac i'r profiad hwn o alltudiaeth gyfrannu at ymdeimlad o unigedd. Byddaf yn defnyddio cysyniad Daddario o internal exile, sef alltud mewnol sy'n dadlau nad oes rhaid bod yn alltud yn gorfforol i fod yn alltud mewn gwirionedd. Mae ein deall alltudiaeth fel trosiad ar gyfer y sawl a arosodd ym Mhrydain ar ôl adferiad y brenin yn 1660, a brofodd ymyleiddio neu gwthio i'r cyrio yn dilyn polisiau erlitgar, y gyfundrefn a adferwyd, ac roedd y polisiau hyn yn cyfyngu ar hawliau rhai fel Edwards. Diffiniau Hannibal Hamlin rhywun alltud fel hyn. Dywed ei fod nhw yn ideologically estranged from their own countries because of their faith. Ac mae hyn yn briodol iawn i Edwards. O safbwynt ei statws, mae'n bosibl ei ddeall fel aelod o grŵp leiafrifol. Ac yn ôl Snell, mae unigedd yn fwy cyfarwydd ymhlith lleiafrifoedd. Wrth gwrs, Presbyteriaid oedd Charles Edwards, mewn teyrnas a oedd yn Anglicanaidd ac yn casau unrhyw enghraifft o bobl nad oedd yn Anglican. Roedd nifer fel Edwards wedi ei henysu o'i teuluoedd, eu cymunedau crefyddol ac o'r wladwriaeth. Bwriad y gyfundrefn ar ôl yr adferiad oedd clirio'r wladwriaeth a'r eglwys o'r sawl a feywyd am y rhyfeloedd cartref. Gelwir y cyfnod hwn gan Geraint Jenkins, un o brif haneswyr Cymru, yn oes yr erlyd o safbwynt yr ymneilltuwyr neu'r angydffurfiaeth, a pasiwyd nifer o fesurau a oedd yn cyfyngu ar eu hawliau ac yn eu hatal nhw rhag mynd o gwmpas a o ddydd i ddydd. Hoffwn ni bwysleisio, erbyn 1689, daeth y bobl hyn eu cydnabod a'i goddef yn y deyrnas. Ond nid yw goddef yr un peth ag ystyried ei croesawu. Nid oedd hawl gan angydffurfwyr i gael swydd yn y wladwriaeth, i bleidleisio, na chwaith i gael addysg brifysgol, ac oedd yna ddrwg deimlad dwys tuag atynt o hyd. Yn y brif astudiaeth a'r unigedd, dadleuai Alberti fod deall unigedd fel profiad negyddol yn deillio o'r cyfnod modern yn unig. Mae hi'n dadlau cyn cyfnod diwydiannu roedd unigedd yn cael ei gysylltu â solitude, rhyw fath o ymneilltuo, ond nid yn yr ystyr crefyddol wrth gwrs, a'i fod hefyd yn cael ei ddeall yn rhywbeth da. Ond yn ôl y ffydd grisnogol, roedd unigedd a bod ar eich pen eich hun yn cael ei ddeall fel rhywbeth negyddol, fel y gwelwn yn Genesis 2, nid da bod dyn ar ei ben ei hun. Mae gwaith Alberti yn canolbwyntio ar y gair unigedd fel ffordd i ddeall hanes y profiad, ond o ystyried unigedd fel profiad sydd yn seiliedig ar ddieithrwch ac ynysu, gallwn ei weld mewn cyfnodau cyn y cyfnod modern, os y defnyddiwyd y term fel hynny a'i peidio. Ac felly heddiw, rydw i'n mynd i ymagweddu at unigedd fel profiad cyffredinol i'r ddynoliaeth. Felly beth am y testimony? Wel, fel y dywedais, ysgrifennwyd hi tua 1691 ac mae'n goroesi mewn 3 chopi yn unig. Un yn llyfrgell bodlu Rhydychen, un yn llyfrgell Rydd Abertawe, a'r llall yn y llyfrgell Brydeinig. Mae'r 3 chopi wedi eu rhwymo a chopiau o Fatherly Instructions, testun arall gan Edwards a gyhoeddwyd yn 1686. Dyma i ni hunangofiant ysbrydol mewn chydig dros 20 o dudalennau, sydd yn ceisio deall cystuddiau Edwards ei hun a llaw Duw wrth ei gynnal. Mae G.J. Williams yn y biwgraffiadur wedi ei alw yn llyfr rhyfedd, ac mae ysgolheigion yn aml wedi awgrymu i Edwards ddioddef o anhwylderau meddwl. Awgrymwyd paranoia gan G.J. Williams er enghraifft. Yn 1994, dadleuodd Derek Llwyd Morgan, mae ffrwyth resymeg yr ugeinfed ganrif oedd y gred iddo ddioddef o baranoia. Digon diddorol mae hyn llai na 30 o flynyddoedd ar ôl iddo fe ddweud yn ei dreutha'r PhD ei fod yn obviously the work of a paranoiac. Mae i ba raddau y dioddefodd Edwards o anhwylderau meddwl y tu hwnt i fy mhapur i mewn gwirionedd. Ond yn y cyd-destun hwn o'i ddeall fel alltud mewnol a'r unigedd a ddaeth yn ei sgil, mae'n bosibl astudio'r marc negyddol y gydawodd ei gyd-destun arno a'i ddiffyg heddwch. Dilynir ôl troed dadl yr athro Emwyn Thomas fod y llyfr hwn yn ffrwyth i secret mental struggle Edwards with a hostile world. Narratif yw'r testimony, a ysgrifennwyd gan rywun a oedd yn teimlo fel bod rhaid iddyn nhw edrych dros ei ysgwydd yn gyson, a gallai hyn fod wedi deillio o effeithiau seicolegol ei ddieithrwch a'i unigedd. Ac felly nid y cwestiwn a gawn ni adroddiad cywir yn y testimoni eu peidio, ond yn hytrach sut ydyn ni'n gallu defnyddio'r testun i archwilio cyflwr meddyliol Charles Edwards. Ac wedyn dadansoddi'r testun fel ffordd o gyflwyno Edwards fel creadigaeth ei hun mwyn dysgu eraill am fywyd. Gorfodwyd Edwards i fod ar ei ben ei hun. Deillia llawer o'i unigedd o'i erludwyr personol a pholisïau erlitgar Ewrodwriaeth. Fel dywedwyd, roedd Prydain wedi'r adferiad yn gyfnod heriol iawn i rai fel Edwards. Cant ei herlyd tredirywio, cant ei harasio, ac oherwydd ei diffyg cydymffurfiaeth ar eglwys, aeth llawer i'r carchar, fel John Bunyan enghraifft. Gadawodd nifer i'r America, ond am y sawl nad aeth, roedden nhw yn alltudion gartref ac yn gorfod pryderu yn byrhaus am yr awdurdodau, ac roedd Edwards yn ei plith. Mae Edwards yn nodi sawl enghraifft o erledigaeth, a chafodd hyn effaith andwyol ar ei fywyd teuluol. Dywed in the year 1666, several armed men, and one of them with his sword drawn, uttering terrible words, rushed into my house into the night and abused my family, called me a traitor, thrust me into a cellar, and made themselves drunk with my beer. Ar ôl hyn, aeth i'r carchar yn imbych, ac ar ôl iddo gael ei ryddhau, dysgodd i un o'i blant farw yn ystod y twrw hwn a ddisgrifiwyd. Arweiniodd hyn at chwal ei briodas, a dywed the worse my domestic troubles were for me, the more vigorously they were tormented and increased by those that hated me. Some were employed to persuade my children that it was better for them to be without me, and my wife was so far alienated from me that she importuned me to part with her and live asunder. Nawr, roedd Edwards ar ei ben ei hun, roedd wedi ei wahanu o'i deulu a'i wraig, a deillia hyn yn uniongyrchol o'i erledigaeth. Gallwn ddweud ei fod yn unig oherwydd ei fod yn ymwybodol o hyn ac yn ei ddeall fel profiad negyddol. Ac mae Derek Morgan wedi awgrymu i'r gwahanu hwn a bywyd Edwards ar ei ben ei hun gymryd effaith negyddol arno. Un o'r sgil-effeithiau hyn oedd prinder cefnogaeth deuluol a gyfrannodd yn fy marn i at ymdeimlad o unigedd. Ac wrth ddeall Edwards fel person unig, gwelwn fod yna gysylltiad uniongyrchol gyda'r naill yn dilyn o'r llall rhwng unigedd, bod ar eich pen eich hun ac astudiaeth. Mynegir ei unigedd hefyd yn dilyn mewn hermau absenoldeb cymdeithas ysbrydol. Fel y dywedwyd, roedd cyfyngiadau ar alluoedd angydffurfwyr neu ymneilltuwyr i gwrdd gyda'i gilydd. Nid oedd hawl ganddynt i gwrdd mewn grwpiau'n fwy na 5, os nad oeddent yn dod o'r un cartref, ac roedd rhai yn cael eu gwahardd o ddinasoedd ac yn methu teithio mwy na 5 milltir o fewn dinasoedd amrywiol. Gwaharddwyd Edwards felly rhag cael cymdeithas Gristnogol, a dywed my afflictions have bereaved me of the help of such gospel society and forcibly hindered me to exercise my talent, sef pregethu, as I would for the promoting thereof, yet I congratulate that others may have it. Yma mae Edwards yn dangos ymwybyddiaeth o'i ddioddefaint oherwydd ei fod wedi ynysu o'i gymdeithas Gristnogol, ac mae'n mynegu hyn mewn yn hermau galar. Oherwydd ei ewledigaeth a'r bobl oedd yn ceisio ei ddal a'i anfon i'r carchar, ceisiodd Edwards fywyd tawel, a dywed yn ei hunangofiant iddo geisio live as privately and inoffensively as I could. Gall hyn ddangos ei awydd i geisio bod ar ei ben ei hun ar gyfer ei les ac ar gyfer ei ddiogelwch, yn ogystal â bod yn angenreidiol oherwydd deddfa wladwriaeth. Felly nid yn unig y gorffodwyd Edwards i fod yn unig, i fod ar ei ben ei hun, ond roedd yn hanfodol fel y gallai oroesi. Ond cafodd Edwards heddwch yn ei unigedd, a daeth yr heddwch hwn wrth iddo ymgysuro yn ei ffydd Gristnogol. Mae'r testimoni yn cefnogi barn Snell i grefydd am ddiffyn rhai yn ei hunigedd. Un cysur iddi Edwards oedd ei gred bod ei brofiad yn adlewyrchu hint a helynt Cristnogion ar draws y byd ac ar draws hanes. Dywed, I got my mind fully satisfied that to follow the precepts and examples of Christ and his inspired servants, prophets, apostles, and the primitive Christians is the only safe way for living and dying. For doing suffering, which is the cause I do not run with the stream of the world. Yma, mae Edwards yn lleoli ei hun fel rhan o dreftadaeth Gristnogol a oedd yn seiliedig ac yn unedig ar ddioddefaint ac erledigaeth. Dengys ei ddioddefaint yn yw fod Edwards yn dilyn y siampl Crist, ac felly y gallai ymhyderu ei fod ymhlith yr etholedig. A fel dywed Iesu Grist yn y bregaeth ar y mynydd, gwyn ei byd y rhai a'r ludiwyd yn achos cyfiawnder, oherwydd eiddynt hwy yw teyrnas nefoedd. Ac roedd yr etifeddiaeth hon yn dwyn heddwch i Edwards. Mae Edwards yn deall bywyd y Cristion fel un yn llawn astudiaeth, sydd yn fywyd o estroni oddi wrth y gymdeithas ac unigedd, ac mae teithio trwy amser fel trwy oes dyn yn un heriol ac unig. Dywed, the way that leadeth to heaven being narrow and not paved with pearls, not strewed with temporal alluring flowers, but thorns rather, will be frequent but by few. Ac un o'r pryn rai hynny oedd Edwards ei hun. Yma mae'n tynnu ar ddelweddau beiblaidd gyda draen yn cynrychioli cystuddiau a dioddefaint ac eredigaeth o'r byd. Gwir Edwards, nad oedd ei ddinasyddiaeth ef yn un bydol. Roedd ef yn ddinesydd yn ef, ac felly nid yw'n syndod iddo na chai groeso ar y ddaear. Wrth ystyried ei gysuron felly, mae Edwards yn dangos dealltwriaeth gyfunol o'r profiad Cristnogol, a dywed our Saviour's kingdom is not of this world. Ei fod ar ei ben ei hun ar y ddaear ac yn dioddef o unigedd, roedd ef yn rhan o dorf na ellir ei rhifo sydd yn aros am Grist, boed yn y nef neu ar y ddaear, a dyma gysur mawr iddo. Cysur...
Muned y ti ar ôl Dewi.
Dim problem. Cysur sy'n cynnal Edwards yn ei unigedd yw Duw ei hun, a dywed yn ddiolchgar, when all forsook me, the Lord stood with me, and hath hitherto delivered my life. A dywed i Dduw ei gysuro, ac wrth iddo fe weddio ar Dduw mewn gweddi, mae fe'n yn aml yn cael cysur. Ac yn y testimony felly, mae'n annog eraill, sydd efallai'n wynebu'r un cystuddiau i ddyfarbarhau yn ei ffydd ac i droi at Dduw. Felly, i grynhoi, mae'r papur hwn wedi dadlau wrth ystyried unigedd fel profiad sy'n seiliedig ar wahanu oddi wrth eraill, sydd yn seiliedig ar ymwybyddiaeth o hynny, y gallwn ddeall Edwards fel person unig. Deilliodd ei unigedd o'r ffaith ei fod ar ei ben ei hun, a'r erledigaethau niferus, sydd yrodd oddi wrth ei deulu a'i gymuned grefyddol. Ond cafodd gysur yn ei ffydd yn niw, a wnaeth gweddi yn sicr ei annog ei ddyfalbarhau. Fel dynesydd yn nef, roedd ei gystuddiau yn dymhorol, a gallai ei wynebu nhw mewn hyder oherwydd y gallai gyfathrebu â Duw a phrofi ei nerth. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Dewi. Sori, brysiad i'r diwedd. Diddorol iawn. O'n i wedi sôn fyna am ddau math o astudiaeth mewnol a falle astudiaeth neu gadael eich gwlad. Allai ddechrau, does na ddim cwestiynau i ddod mewn to, mae'n croeso chi anfon rhai, ond y cwestiwn hoffwn ni jyst godi gyda Josie Astra a Tanwja yw, chi wedi sôn llawer iawn am fanteision eich cynllun chi o ran y bobl sydd wedi cymryd rhan. A di hwnna ddim i'w diwbrisio, mae hwnna yn bwysig iawn a mae'n ddiddorol iawn. Chwarae y ffordd mae wedi cael ei gydnabod hefyd. Mae hwnna'n bwysig. Ond i ba raddau chi'n meddwl chi wedi gallu newid amgylchiadau ar gyfer ffwydried a ceiswyr lloches? Sonio chi am bwysigrwydd cyfieithu er enghraifft a o fewn y gwasanaeth iechyd. Os na bethau allach chi gyfeirio at fe sydd wedi bod sydd yn newid fel canlyniad i'r gwaith chi'n neud?
Thank you, Aled. I think so. Year 2 has come from one of the key findings of Year 1, and I know that has been quite a significant study in changing the experiences of asylum seekers and refugees. And perhaps if I go over to Ashra to talk a little bit more about Year 1 and the impact of that.
Thank you, Aled and Josie. There were a couple of tangible changes from the research. So, for example, we have the asylum seeking nursing team in Swansea, and they changed the way they approached and supported participants from the findings from the research. So, for example, on a Wednesday afternoon, they have an open session where they actively contact people to check that they've registered with their GP if they're having any difficulties getting access to a dentist or optician. So they're doing that follow-up work with the participants. It's more on a systemic level. Public Health Wales will be developing training programmes for health professionals, because we found that the health professionals were unaware basically of their rights and entitlements of asylum seekers and refugees, some of their needs. And also our research forms part of the British Medical Association's toolkit, and it's available on their website for people to download and for people who are supporting asylum seekers and refugees. And recently we've had an approach from the National Institute of Health Research, and they're wanting to look at putting out research calls around inclusion and whether asylum seekers and refugees could be one aspect of that. So there are lots of developments ongoing every day. And I have had contact from a PhD student from Canada who wants to do some work around maternal well-being. So we've submitted an application to the ESRC for that. So hopefully if she is successful, then she will be doing that work. So there's lots of ongoing knock-on impact from the study.
Mae'r cwestiwn wedi cyrraedd oddi wrth Mererid. Mae'n drawiadol a mae hyn ar gyfer ddau gyflwyniad. Mae'n drawiadol sut mae'r ddau gyflwyniad wedi edrych ar bobl sydd wedi cael eu gwythio allan i raddau mwy neu lai gan ddiffyg heddwch gwleidyddol a gyriniaeth yn y byd. Mae yna 400 mlynedd o wahaniaeth rhwng y ddau brofiad, ond i ba raddau mae'r panel yn obeithiol bydd modd ar gyhoeddi gwleidyddion heddi gan ddechrau yng Nghymru o bwysigrwydd mabwysiadu polisïau dyngarol mwy heddychlon a llai gelyneithus. A Dewi, na i ddechrau gyda ti.
Ie, wrth gwrs, mae yna gysylltiadau diddorol ac mae'n werth cofio hefyd dyw statws rhywun fel person alltyd ddim yn absolute. Mae fe'n gallu newid weithiau dros nos ac mae'r cyfnod rydw i'n astudio yn dangos hynny'n glir o ran, wel, jyst ystyriwch y brenin Charles y cyntaf, roedd e'n frenin ar ddechrau y deyrnasiad ac erbyn 1649, diwedd Ionawr, gollodd ei ben. Mae hwnna'n enghraifft drawiadol o sut gall person ddod yn alltyd bron dros nos a wedyn a newid. Ac wrth gwrs daeth ei fab yn ôl, daeth alltudiaeth i ben. O safbwynt y gobaith i argyhoeddi gwleidyddion, yn amlwg bydde annog gwleidyddion i fabwysiadu polisïau dyngarol yn bwysig iawn, a byddwn ni'n gefnogol iawn i hynny, ac yn gobeithio bod nhw'n medru gwerthfawrogi'r cysylltiad rhwng polisi a lles unigolion y rhai sydd yn alltyd, boed yn alltyd llythrennol, oddi wrth eu cartrefi, neu yn alltudiaeth fwy seicolegol, gan gydnabod bod yna cydberthynas rhwng polisi a hynny.
Diolch yn fawr, Dewi. O'n i'n meddwl pan ti'n siarad, oedd e'n swnio fel drama dda iawn, ac mae'n gyffroes iawn yn dweud. Na i droi nawr at Josie a Ashra a Tanuja.
Thank you, Aled. From my perspective, I think that there's always hope that we can look towards more humanitarian and peaceful policies. I think in the literature review for the HERE studies, the Wellbeing for Future Generations Act was referenced. But I think hopefully she doesn't mind if I go to Tanuja, because she's currently working within the Welsh Government. So it would be interesting to get her thoughts on that as well.
Thank you, Josie, and thank you, Alec, for your question. I think, well, basically, I was involved in HERE 1 study as well as HERE 2, hoping that there will be a change. And my reason to get involved in HERE 2, because I have seen some changes ground level, so it wouldn't happen without a policy change. So I believe we have done something together at HERE 1 study. And so we could see some policy changes. Like Josie said, I now work for Welsh Government, and I work for Inclusion and Cohesion team, where they have given an opportunity to a sanctuary seeker, just like myself, to get experiences of ground level closer to the policymakers. So, and you know, this is my working time. This is my working shift. But I was allowed to opt out to come to the conference because they have recognized this the importance of studies, HERE 1 and HERE 2 studies, and they're always interested to find the outcomes, the outcomes of the studies. So these studies will feed policymakers eventually to make a difference. The message from Welsh Government is clear. Wales is a nation of sanctuary, and they have it in heart. So and with current crisis with Ukraine, we are welcoming more sanctuary seekers to Wales, and the policies that we make is for everybody who come from around the world. We wouldn't focus on one category or one cohort, but the policies will eventually change to welcome everybody and eliminate issues faced by asylum seekers. It's not an easy journey. I've seen how stretched Welsh Government is personally, and then the ministers are, and I've seen a clear, I've seen an effort of making policies to make Wales a welcoming place. So I can assure these studies will help policymakers to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Tanuja. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Dwi'n mynd I ddod â'r sesiwn I ben nawr. Dwi eisiau diolch yn fawr iawn I aelodau'r panel. Chi wedi bod yn hael iawn gyda'ch cyfraniadau, Josie, Ashra a Tanuja, a Dewi hefyd, a fi'n gobeithio newch chi gytuno bod bod y ddau gyflwyniad mor wahanol i'w gilydd o ran 400 mlynedd rhwng y ddau destun fel petai, bod y ddoi yn rhyfeddol o berthnasol ac a hyd yn oed yn amserol. A pwy yn meddwl sy'n ni'n gallu gweud na am rhywun oedd yn byw yn yr ail ganrif 15. Na mi, ni'n mynd I orffen fyna. Mae'r sesiwn nesaf am 1:15, felly mae amser gyda chi I gael cinio. A mae'r sesiwn nesaf ar heddwch iechyd ag iaith gyda Ngharad Higgins ar y Wazim Asylum. Wy'n credu bod Dr Jill Richardson wedi rhoi nifer o safleoedd y we ar y chat. Byddai'n ddefnyddiol iawn I bobl gael mynediad iddyn nhw sy'n delio gyda Cymru fel cenedl noddfa. A fydd yn berthnasol iawn. Ond diolch yn fawr iawn I chi, a gobeithio nawr ni weld chi yn y prawn. Diolch yn fawr.